So, thank you, Militia, for that warm welcome. I am here today to introduce our new thematic field data enabler, because it's all about data. Data is the treasure of the 21st century. And when I'm talking about data, I'm talking about field data. So that's data which is already in your machines. And not just data, as well as information. So it's things like the model which is in your remote I/O, it's the model which is in your drive, for example, it's temperatures, it's commissioning information. So it's really a lot of information. And do you know how much of this data is actually used in your machines? So maybe do just a quick short feedback. So who is thinking about 100% of the data are used today? Okay, none of you. Who is thinking half of the data are used? Okay. Who is thinking that less than 20% of the data is used in your today's machines? Okay, hands are rising. Good to know. That was as well what we figured out. It's about 80% of the data in the machines are not used today. So they are not used or not accessible. And that's exactly what we're gonna change, where we're gonna help you in your machines to get the information out. So, but where is all of that coming from? So, therefore, we have to understand how the world is right now. So, today's situation is that we have a cloud infrastructure, we have an IT environment, and we have an OT system. And typically, for all cases of cloud infrastructure or IT environment, we use the OT data coming from the PLC or the HMI system. And the point with that is that these data are optimized data for OT. So that means it's deterministic, it's focusing on safety, and it's especially made for a fast communication, for high productivity, and for high quality. But if it comes to IT or cloud applications, we often talk about information. So there we want to have the semantics, we want to have the context, and we want to have the information, what's behind. And to do that, or to get that in today's applications, we have to think about field bus connected things, which could be reached via the PLC, but therefore you have to change the PLC. So you have to have a function call on the first hand, and on the other side you have to know which data set in your field level or on your sensor level directly tells you what is it about and which semantic or which value you have there. So that means you have to have a lot of knowledge, so that's why we have here the detour. And on the other hand, you have to change your PLC. And that's something most customers, especially in the brownfield applications, will never do. And furthermore, we see things which are not field bus connected, so simple connected devices or devices which are just not connected to the OT world at all. And these 2 points bring us, are very, very hard to reach, so therefore you need a different approach. So how are we going to help you? Therefore, we see as a first point an application which is running in the IT environment, directly connected to the Profinet world, and makes it able to directly get out the process data, the asset information, and as well all the static information from the very, say, commissioning point towards end of life. And that's exactly what you get out without interfering the PLC or the OT system at all. On the second point, for everything what's not field bus connected, we see a gateway approach as the reasonable answer. So therefore, you need a gateway which has different physical interfaces, say serial ones, Ethernet-based ones, or also wireless, to get all that information which is laying over there. And just to make that a bit more clear, if you talk about simple connected devices, so that's all Dynamics V20, for example, and a lot of the Dynamics G120 or the PAC 3200, so all of these metering applications are not connected from the beginning, and especially not connected to the PLC. And that's what we're going to change with that approach. So to sum that up, both offerings are complementing each other. So it means on the field bus side, on the non-field bus side, and both having the 3 main characteristics. So we talk about data availability for IT without OT interference, especially for brownfield applications. That's the major task, especially if you think about the machine owner is not the machine builder. There are some restrictions and nobody want to lose productivity or quality in their machine. The second point is it has to be as easy as possible to use and integrate. So our target group is the OT engineer or the OT users, and therefore we talk about configuration instead of coding. So here it has to be a solution which directly fits in your application. And third but not least, we talk about value data. So means in this case that we do not talk about just data, we talk about semantics, we talk about context information that the customer directly can use that information, and on the second point, that it can be directly processed in the IT world. And now I'm going to go a bit deeper into two products. So on the first one, we talk about the application. So as you can see it over here, so the application is running on an IPC, it's directly connected to the Profinet world. It's also connecting to the IO link. And there we have a special thing about the application. The special thing about the application is that it directly uses the IODD to map all IO link data which is already there as information and make that available as well for the analytics part. Means for predictive maintenance, means for condition monitoring, predictive asset management and quality verification. And to sum that up, as customer values of the application, we see that it's directly enabling digital use cases in terms of overall equipment efficiency. On the second point, it does not need to program or change anything in the PLC. And as a third point, it's not required to have further components or anything changes in the OT world by using this application. As the complementary part, so we talked about the gateway. So the gateway, of course, using the same characteristics. It's multi-interface gateway on the south side, and to have a serial interface, to have as well Ethernet-based interfaces and Wi-Fi interface on that. For us, it's very important, as the first customer value says, it's the data selection via web server. It's important for us that we can directly configure all the data what we want to have in the field directly on the device. So there's no further tooling needing. So you do not need to install some things on that, so it has anything on board. From the interface towards the configuration, towards the data selection, and as well to define where you want to have this information. The second point, it's very compact and robust. So as you can see on the size, it's directly fits, or it almost fits everywhere because it's so small, and it has the environmental requirements as our drives have, or our IOs, for example. So it could be directly next to your IO station in the cabinet, for example. And third but not least, for us it is very important to talk about security. So this device can directly send information towards the IT, but as well to the cloud layer. So therefore it's important to us that we have security by design. Means we every time talk about a certificate-based communication from the very beginning, so that you do not have any traps or anything inside your machine. By using that, it has to be as simple as possible and secure as possible again to do so. Okay, so to sum that up, with these two offerings, we are now able to get all the information in the field, or almost all the data in the field. And that means we have now the treasure in our hand. And yeah, what can we do with that treasure? And how do we get to solutions and services by having that? Therefore, I need my colleague Selma on stage. Please. Hello, Selma. So please take a seat.
Thanks, Johannes, for having me here.
Yeah, great to have you here. Can you tell our audience what are you doing with that data? So.
Yes, sure. So let's say the treasure that you have now is like a rough diamond out of mine, and we will polish it for our customers. To put it in simple words, let's say now with this Semantic FD portfolio, the data is accessible. We have to make it available to the customer in a way that they can use it to increase the efficiency of their plant. So if I go a little bit in details, so when we have the data at the brownfield connectivity gateway, from there it can take three possible routes, either to an industrial edge device, or it can go directly to a cloud infrastructure, or it can go to the cloud through the industrial edge device. In all three cases, the customers, they can access our web-based predictive service dashboards to analyze the status of the field devices. They also get recommendations about upcoming required maintenance activities, even including the spare parts maintenance. That means they can increase their plant availability, they can avoid unplanned shutdowns and failures, and they can also reduce their maintenance cost. In a nutshell, they can do smart maintenance for their plant.
That's true customer value creation. Why have you used the semantic field data enabler offering, and where do you see the biggest advantages?
Let's say it's for our customers, of course, and the beauty of Siemens' huge portfolio is that we can put all puzzle pieces together to create maximum value for our customers. We developed this data field enablement portfolio together with the brownfield connectivity services because the market was asking for it. And the biggest advantage that customers can have out of this is they can access and analyze their field machines and devices without changing anything or interfering with their running OT system. And also field devices like drive applications, even the sensor signals from the field are now accessible, and it was not possible in the past.
That sounds really great to me. So I'm totally convinced about that, but where can we find further information about the two topics?
Yeah, good question. Here we are in the realize area at station number 40, and we demonstrate the data enablement part for our audience. And then the other one is an optimized area at station number 77. There the audience can see the data availability and how we are doing the predictive maintenance.
Thank you, Salma. Thank you, audience, for being here. For further information, so hopefully see you on the booth or on our virtual event by next week. Thank you.